sharecropper's son in Alabama, and then moved to Georgia and changed the world.
Yes.
So when you understand his role and what he's done, then you can see how we can put this system together. And my young brother here, he's got a medical degree. Now, we all doctors, but the real doctors are these medical folks. But they can give us a doctorate after 3 or 4 years. Medicine, they make you have to have an internship for 2 years after you've done all this other work. So the medical doctors are real deal. But I'll take my doctorate anyway. It's from Columbia University, a master's from Columbia University. And I did it the master's was on the Economic Development Plan of Senegal, 1962. I was in Senegal. 61, Ivory Coast, 62, Senegal, 63, Guinea, 64. I was in charge of all of West Africa, all the way down to the Congo. There's no way you can possibly replicate the experience. My wife is the pioneer. She went first. She was in Nigeria before Nigeria was independent. When Nigeria get there, October 1960, she was in Nigeria June, July, August 1960, in a little place building a school in a little place called Ahamufu, near where Nsukka, the University of Nigeria, was built. This is the history that we have to tell, but we can't do it tonight. This is just to reintroduce us to you. We gonna name it and claim it. We gonna come back to Jersey City with our whips in hand.
Yes.
This is physical whips, our psychological whips, intellectual whips, and make the brothers and sisters like him and the rest of y'all that have all of this training and understanding. We need to come up with a plan and shape this thing to where we can really build on it. We have to. So just let me leave you with the 3 things. He doesn't know that I've been doing the 3 Ds and the 3 Bs and the 3 Cs for the last 50 years. And he just jumped out here, puffed his chest up and said, boom. So I like it. You know, what is that? What is that? Media, with 3 M's. Media, military, and money. Number 1 is money. That's what Nigeria's problem. We're going to apply the 3 M's to Nigeria. Money has been Nigeria's problem. More money has been stolen out of Nigeria than any other nation in the history of the world. Abacha used to have a plane ready with his son on it to take out the billions of oil money. We got to do an analysis on that.
Yes.
Military. No place in the world has spent more money on a military that ain't been doing nothing in terms of military. Should be knocking out, should have sent troops down to Angola and Mozambique to help the struggle in days. Should have sent Nelson Mandela and said, come here now, so we're going to shake hands in the African way and hug, and we're going to provide our military to help free South Africa. Nigeria has had a military posturing a role as military. And media, my wife loves Nigerian media. She went there and got seduced. She used to come back home with stacks of it. You know, they have what? Hollywood, then they got Bollywood, then they got Nollywood, which is Nigeria.
It's other way around, Professor. It's the other way around. It's Bollywood, Nollywood, and Hollywood, for the record.
And she used to buy 15 of these things. She just loved those stories. Okay, now, we need, like my brother was saying, the first people who understood money were Africans. The first people who put a military in place in order to protect money were Africans. The first people who had media who knew what imagery was Africa. We need to move in front and take our place at the head of the human family, not run behind some other people who we think we have to follow. Systems analysis is what I want the world to know about. Every system has 3 components. The first component, using the triangle shape, the pyramidal triangle shape is what Africans gave to the world. You got pyramids in Egypt, you got pyramids in the Sudan, you got pyramids in the Americas. Pyramids allowing the human family to deal with the ancestral root and to relate to God and the universe. So using that pyramid, and I want to leave you with this. For the world, and the biggest prize in the world, it always has been Africa. The Chinese have a plan to take over Africa. Where is our plan to keep it in our midst and to share it if necessary, but under our rules and regulations? Economics is the first principle of the universe. If you're going to deal with your own body, you have to understand the economics of the body. But in order for your economics to work for you, you got to have politics. Politics is the management of what? Your economics. That's the most important thing you have to manage. So the foundation of what we have to do in talking about 400 years and projecting it is we've got to deal with an economic and a political foundation. But it ain't going to happen unless and until you have at the summit culture. Culture is the key. Culture tells you what type of economics you develop and who to do your damn politics with. Once we put that process in place, we're on our way, brothers and sisters. We intend to come back and help you move out of this rut that you're in Jersey City and take all the skills that you have and do something, because Jersey City is a strategic point in America. North is, Essex County is a strategic point, Elizabeth. And we can relate those points of power in New Jersey to New York City in an African way. And then we can go to Lagos and Abuja and other places and hook it up. We got a responsibility. My brother has been sitting here wondering, where has Dr. Jeffries been? I've been waiting for him and he stepped away from us for years. I'm back! I'm back! And brothers and sisters, we have to begin to take control of our universe, Africanizing our lives. And when you move into Africa, you universalize yourself. You don't put yourself to a narrow corner of the world where you're just saying Ile and you're just saying Kumasi, and you're just saying Tuba. You have to see it all as part of the universal awakening of the human family on the human plane. Africa is the key. It's in your DNA. So let's make it work, brothers and sisters.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Very quick. I appreciate that you wanted us to still present this because quite a lot of time and thought was put into it, even though I was quite happy to continue this discussion uninterrupted because it's been very important and very enlightening. However, we will do an abbreviated version of this, and my introductory spiel is just to say that the 17 individuals who were chosen represent, in many ways, a span of 400 years of our Africans in the diaspora and in the continent. And they represent, and their lifespan, the 17th to the 21st century. Their leadership and their activism, whether in the political or cultural or social or economic spheres, resonated internationally. And it influenced, I think, in many ways, the arc of history in ways that are still open to debate today. Their lives and examples, arguably, have given rise to our contemporary politicians, our activists, educators, community leaders, and other civic-minded heroes and organizations that shape our world today in ways that are big and small. These trailblazers and pathfinders, as we've coined the term, they're introduced chronologically in this presentation in birth order, so you'll see that span. But I can tell you, without fear of contradiction, that this is just a snapshot that can hardly do justice to their impact on the world, and especially in the African diaspora. So please put your attention here, and we will just advance the slides remotely. Thank you so much for your attention. emotional standing there. Maybe it's the grandeur of this place, the tenor and tone of the discussion. But it's been a labor of love to try to represent our African brothers and sisters from the Caribbean, from continental Africa, from the good old US of A. I'm proud to be a citizen of this country. I came from Guyana, South America, many decades ago. So in many ways, I feel very privileged to stand here and say that I feel a connection to you all. Whether you're from the continent of Africa or from, and I mean that as in reside there or were born there, or whether you were born in the diaspora. So thank you so much. It's a privilege to participate in this with the other presenters, and I thank you for your attention.
Because if you cannot reflect on the past, you cannot project into the future. And the future that we're talking about economy, we're talking about infrastructure, and we are also talking about technology in Africa. Because the brain drain of Africa that constitutes the success of the Western world needs to be reversed. In a simple term, I would say a woman, a mother, should not have 3 children that are lawyers, doctors, and probably a senator or a governor and a president, and she still live in a dungeon. That's not called success. Because the objective of the mother that worked so hard and gave back to these phenomenal kids needs to reflect on the conveyor of that life. Now it's the time that we want to get to the Q&A section. I believe that our panelists have fed you all, and you have seen from the past, we're now in the present. We now get ready for the Q&A. And if you have any question regarding what our people talk about, something that you're pondering in your mind that you never had a solution to, I think it's about time. And if we don't have all the answers to your question, I would network, and you can reach out to, African400.org, email us info@african400.org. We get across to our leaders. I'll make sure that answer to your problem, to your question is solidified. I would also like to bring to your attention quickly before we go into the Q&A that a great thing is happening in Africa. President Kufuor of Ghana is doing phenomenal well. A lot of people are getting right of our board in Ghana and building and growing, and we are very happy about that. The same thing happened in other parts of Africa. And I will now tell you before you tonight that the good news coming out of Nigeria makes me smile and blush sometimes. If our president can just go out there and say to the world that we are ready to welcome everybody to Nigeria, whereby no visa is required for you to come into Nigeria. What I'm telling you, it's real, and that kicks off in January of 2020, next year. Nigeria is going to be open to all our visitors. You come to Nigeria as a family. We're one people. We believe we're one under God. We believe we're family. So it's time for you to just pick up your passport, go to Nigeria, see what you can do to make Nigeria better. Because like Nelson Mandela said, the success of Nigeria, the success of Africa, lies on the success of Nigeria. Because Nigeria constitutes 25% of continental Africa. So if Nigeria is not well, Africa is not well. And there is no success in any African country without the contribution of Nigeria. So it's not about Nigeria tonight, it's about Africa. Because there's an adage in Africa that says, one wealthy man among millions of richer people is richer. Because we can't have that. We can have, if we have one Bill Gates and we have all other people that are fortunate as him, we cannot identify the enrichment because it will not be enough to do much. Just like some people cry in Nigeria. When they need help, they call it Dangote. How many people can Dangote help? So that's the problem we have. So tonight is the time. Let's kick in, bring out those questions, and we go from there, maybe until next time when we come in again to help move Africa forward. This is the objective tonight. So to the audience, the microphone is yours, and you can direct your question to whoever you want to direct it to specifically, and we get your question answered. And I'm sure your panelists are ready for you. Please give them a round of applause once again.
Mrs. Jeffries, have you did art yourself? Have you made art pictures, personally for yourself? And Dr. Calvani, have you seen any evidence of what in Grand Canyon is still existing? Have you searched for that? So, go first.
The question was, did I do art myself? I certainly did. Since a child, I was interested in doing artwork. And I grew up in apartheid Harlem. All of the students in my school were black. All of the teachers were white. And when I started to continue in junior high school, my junior high school was in a part of Harlem closer to Spanish Harlem. In those days, it was multicultural. We had Italians and we had Irish from First Avenue, and so it was training for what I do now, international work as a child. And I continued in artwork at that time on the idea of the many peoples of the world. And so I began, but what I was told was that I was a dreamer, that I looked out of the window, and so those teachers that were academically trained thought that I was kind of dumb in a sense, but I did well on the test. So that we sometimes misunderstand our youth who are advanced, and we don't understand those who are creative. When I went to junior high school, I said, no, I will not be part of the dummies who do art. And so therefore I went into education. That's how I moved on. And from there, other people's arts, the arts of the world and of peoples. And so that's how I got into art history.
Thank you, Grandmother. Who's the next speaker?
And so she tried to explain it. Yesterday she got up in the morning at 5 to get ready to get out at 6 for the driver to come and pick her up at 6:30 to get her to the School of Visual Arts in New York, one of the leading art schools in the world, and she's been teaching there for 45 years. Most of her students now are Asian, so she had to readjust her artist of substance.
Thank you,
Artists asked her to write the catalogs for their work. So I'm very proud to have a fantastic wife.
Canyon twice, but that particular area, they now have the FBI has that blocked off so that you can't get there. So you answer that question for yourself.
I wanted to say something that Ms. Gloria mentioned, that we don't know who we are, and that's because we haven't been taught who we are. And I think that is very sad, because me being of Ghanaian descent, I left the country of Ghana at the age of 10. And our history was not being taught to us in our schools because of the English influence. Recently, I watched the movie Palm Trees in the Snow. And it was a movie that taught me some things about Africa that I also didn't know. We know of the British coming in, we know of the Portuguese coming in, but I never knew of the people of Spain also coming in. So basically, we just know of the great influence of the English. What can this panel and leaders such as yourselves do back in the countries of Africa so that it can be taught in our schools, so that the generation coming up can be proud of who they are and not look so forward to the influences of Europe and the Americas. That is my question.
My question is directed towards Dr. Aliyu, Dr. Nelson Aliyu. Dr. Nelson, a fellow Nigerian like you. I grew up in Nigeria. Precisely, I immigrated here in my mid-20s. And recently, we are observing the government of Nigeria trying to gag up freedom of speech. A lot of journalists are being held for speaking out or criticizing the government. Do you think there are things we globally as a community, including the African Americans, could do to dissuade the government from such actions? Precisely, there's a journalist who's creating waves now because he's been held despite multiple courts decisions to let him loose. Do you think there's anything we can do to excite the global community to look into the case? That's my question. And for the moderator, I can see and feel the excitement that you have about the government allowing, opening our doors to everybody to come in without visas. Do you think that would have some negative implications in terms of allowing people who are not, who don't have good intentions? I'm thinking about the effects of people like the Boko Haram and other neighboring countries, how they came in and their activities, especially during the past election, were not in the interest of the whole country. And now opening our doors to allow people to come in from everywhere. Do you think we have to think about the negative implications?
Yes, greetings to the panelists. Thank you so much for your enlightenment and your information. I just wanted to deal with something that's currently in the media, and it's certainly a thing of who we are as a people. We are the world's first people. As it was said, if we did not leave Africa, the world would not be populated. And as such, as being the world's first people, it's just a reality. We were some of the first people who organized religion. And I just wanted the information to go forth that there is no, religion is a universal thing. And therefore, there's no ethnic group that can claim it because God is universal. And I think we need to understand that fact. So you cannot be anti this or anti that if you're part of the universal understanding of the Most High. So I just need to say that as we as a people speak and we teach, that we need to reinforce that idea that religion is universal and no ethnic group has sway over it. And that's statement and question.
You have two of my favorite people here, Dr. Leonard and Rosalind Jeffries, and they've spoken eloquently about our story. But we haven't spoken about the 400 years on this side of the ocean.
Can you speak to the mic?
We haven't spoken about the 400 years on this side of the ocean. And the greatness of this community's black folk, and I'm talking about Jersey City's black folk, coming from the territories of Angola, all right, the Kingdom of the Congo, and this multicultural group of folk who formed families under the harshest of conditions, who were multilingual, who were multiliterate, who were political, who understood. So the first Africans that got to these shores enslaved were freed by their own tenaciousness in 20 years of being here. And so when we talk about the folk here, we need to mention the names of Reverend Florence Randolph, who stood between two titans, Marcus Messiah Garvey and W.E.B. Du Bois, from 52 Astor Place here in Jersey City. All right, she stood between them, building churches in the A.M.E. Zion Church, becoming the first ordained female elder in that church. And the work that she did is only coming to fruition now, because the things that she did in Liberia and the Firestone lease of 100 years is coming due in 2021. This is powerful people. And then when we talk about Fannie Lou Hamer changing the Democratic Party in Atlantic City, standing there fighting down the Dixiecrats. So my only point is simple, that the stories here on this side of the diaspora are as equal and are as powerful and are as poignant. Led by women, all right, followed by men, worked hard to achieve these goals, so that these are the stories that I would like you to also know, all right? So you have brilliant Dr. Rosalind Jeffries there, who could dissect European art, dissect Asian art, give you a story in African art, all right, and bring it all together in African American art, standing in one of the most hostile environments of uppity folk who think that they know it all, and there she is, standing in the breach, telling her story. And of course, she got her husband here, who has his own story. So, with that, you know, I would just like, it's a more of a comment than anything else. Thank you.
You said, how do we pass our history to the young ones? All right, I'm glad that you asked that question, because I'll give a little insight, because actually the reason that we're here is to give insight and then look at where we're going and how we'll get there. All right, going back, actually she mentioned that she grew up in Ghana. I grew up in Nigeria, and like I said, I didn't know too much about the history here. And I have to let our brothers and sisters that live in diaspora know this. Growing up in Africa, they did not tell us what you were going through in America. We heard about slavery, but the only part that we had was that our brothers were taken out of Africa. But whatever they were going through here in America or any part of the world, they did not tell us. So we found out when we came over here. And that's why many of us are still confused in terms of our history. But what I have understood here is that people are like, they're very individualistic. Everyone talk about what they want to do. But we let our heroes labor in vain. We watched those people that have suffered so much for us, but we don't, it's almost like when you run a race, you hand the baton to the next generation. But it looks like we have dropped the baton. So we're not running. We're just looking after ourselves, what will benefit us only, not what will benefit the whole generation. So most of us, sometimes when we're elected into high positions, we forget our brothers and sisters at the back. I know we talk about where we come from. We make speeches and we say, I remember where I come from. It doesn't matter, you can remember, but how do you go back to get the people that you have left behind? So a lot of us, I wish we have some politicians here. When they're elected, they sit very comfortably. And I will describe it like this with an analysis. I asked them, if you're being chased by a lion, and your children are being chased by a lion, and then you run very fast, and you escape being captured by the lion, but your children are captured, have you really escaped? So it goes back to that question. Yes, we know what happened, some of us have studied, but have we gone back to school to do some seminars? We're sitting here, this is a city hall, which is good, but we build a cocoon around us, the ones that have made it, without stepping beyond our comfort zones, to go out and tell the story to our brothers and sisters that are still in the remote part of the city. We should go down to Brooklyn. We are afraid when we become comfortable, when we become rich, we move to the suburb and we forget our brothers and sisters, and that's why we're not passing our history. So I think we should do something like this. Yes, it's all right to do it in the city hall, but if we can go to the schools, do some workshops, encourage our people to read, like I said. How can you find out about something when you don't read? How did I even know about the African Americans here, if I did not take my time to study, to know what happened to my brothers and sisters? So we leave it for others to tell our story. And it becomes what I take, what I take, what I take,